All right. Hello, everyone. Coach Kelsa here, admin and creator of this amazing group, Financial Coaches Unite. I am so glad you're here. We are going to be diving in, talking with Anna today with Anna's Simple Solutions. You guys have been asking so many amazing questions about hiring a virtual assistant. How do you know if you're ready for that? And if you are ready for it, how in the world do you find one? What type of VA do you need? And Anna is a pro, and so she has graciously dedicated her time and expertise to helping our group feel more educated and taking this step in your business. I'm going to hop in really quickly to our Facebook group just to make sure you guys are seeing this okay and that it's being broadcast. There it is. We are good. Okay. So this will also go on YouTube. So if you guys need to catch the replay later, you absolutely can. Please say hello to us so that we know that you're here joining us. Leave us a comment if you're watching the replay so that we know that you're catching it. Let's dive in, and give us a little idea of your journey, how you got started with virtual assistants, and just a little bit about you.
Well, my name is Anna, as Kelsa said, and I am a virtual assistant. There's many different types of virtual assistants, and I am one of them. And I have been doing this since probably September of last year. I first started as a little bit of a side hustle. I had a full-time job, and I recently pushed that to the side to do this full-time. So I'm really excited about it. I am more of a tech and system specialist, and I really love supporting coaches and course creators, especially financial coaches, and help them achieve their dreams by defining and refining their processes and supporting their systems to help them work in their zone of genius.
Yes, I love that. And you have a family. Where are you from?
That's great. I totally forgot about that for a second. I live in Chicago, a suburb of Chicago, Illinois. I have to be careful because people who are from Chicago, they're like, where's Chicago? So I live in a northwest suburb of Chicago, Illinois. I have two little boys, 7 years old and 4 years old, and my husband. So I'm surrounded by boys, and I absolutely love it. They are a ton of fun. They keep me running, that's for sure. And even though this COVID crisis has kind of thrown us all for a loop, I love being able to spend the time that I do. And so I really like that silver lining of being able to work from home, being able to work with people that I love, and spending time with my kids.
I gave a presentation yesterday in real life, and it was a really big deal because it was the first time I've actually done something not virtual. And, I wore a mask, they were wearing masks, that sort of thing. But I was saying about how, I've been working at home for a while now, but now, with two kids, a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old at home and a husband at home, I was actually joking. I was like, I'm not sure which one of the three is the biggest distraction during the day. So I'm sure you can relate. So, Well, let's dive in. And I also want to encourage everybody to stick till the end of the interview because Anna has graciously created some really amazing tools for you guys. A time inventory, audit, and checklist, which we're going to talk about why that's so important in just a second. Questions to ask a potential VA, and then also how to prepare for hiring a VA and scaling your business, a how-to guide. And she's going to give those to you guys for free. Just stick around to the end and make sure you get access to those. So let's start a bit general. And for anyone who doesn't know, what is the purpose of a VA? Why would somebody want to hire a VA? Just give us a bit of an overview to start.
Well, a virtual assistant can mean many, many things, but in essence, it is a person that helps you spend the time on your business that you really want to spend your time on. So there are a lot of things that a business needs in order to run. It has operations, it has scheduling, it has the whole gamut of things. You need to create documents in order to send to your clients. But all of those things, you probably either don't enjoy or take up a lot of your time that you could be spending with your clients or developing a new product or whatever it is that the business actually is about. So virtual assistants can come in and take some of those pieces off your plates that either is not in your zone of genius or you don't enjoy doing it. And they can actually help you spend more time doing the things that you love. So that,
Yeah.
in essence, right.
Yeah. And I think when I started my financial coaching business, I don't think I fully understood just how many different hats you were going to play as an entrepreneur. Like I kind of had an idea, but then I really didn't, because it ended up being so much more vast than what I thought, from technology to systems to the financial part of the business.
Exactly.
To phone call and customer service and customer satisfaction and selling and marketing. And oh yeah, also like the coaching part of things, which is like what most of us go into it wanting to do that role. And I do think it's really important. I'm curious if you agree with this, Anna. Like, I think it's important when you first start out to wear a lot of hats and to figure out which of those hats you feel like you're naturally skilled at and you do enjoy them, and which ones you maybe don't enjoy at all. And we don't always know when we're first starting out.
Absolutely. I'm still figuring it out in my business as well. Yeah. But you are absolutely right. It's actually important to dip your hands, at least in my opinion, in every piece of your business, because this is your business. It's your baby.
Yeah.
You went into it for one specific reason, but you are owning your own business because you don't want to work for somebody else. So understanding all the pieces that go together in order to make your business run is really an important piece of being a business owner. So that's a really great point that you made.
Yeah, I think for me, I really enjoy the marketing side of things, because to me, marketing is just engaging with people before they buy from you. And I love that part of it, you know, but I wouldn't have guessed that on the front end. Like when I first started, I don't think I would have thought that. I also think you kind of have to figure out in that example, like what does marketing mean for you before you know whether you like it or not, right? Because marketing could have meant, you know, funnels and systems and ads on Facebook or something like that. And maybe if we were doing that kind of stuff, I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much and I would have delegated it. But because ours is more about just engagement, that to me is an easy thing for me to do naturally. Mm-hmm. So I think that's why you have to like dabble in all of these things and then figure out which ones do I like doing, which ones do I absolutely despise really right away, and get those off your plate as quickly as possible. That also helps you kind of figure out like what kind of VA am I looking to hire.
Absolutely.
Right? Oh, I think I lost you. Maybe, I don't know if they can hear you, but let's see. Did we lose Anna, you guys, or can you hear her? Or did I just lose her? Let's see, are you guys able to hear it? Somebody comment and let me know what you think. So here, the great thing is we can always edit this out later, which is nice. So there are some pros and cons to hiring a VA, which is what we were going to dive into next. So while we kind of figure out if Anna is with us or if she's frozen on your guys' end, I'm going to start diving into those, and then we'll see yep, Alex says we lost her. So, okay, we'll give her a minute. Looks like she hopped off. She'll probably hop back on in just a second, and I'll bring her back into the room. Thank you guys for letting me know. I really appreciate that. So I'm sure she'll be back on in just a second. It's pretty normal for tech glitches, of course. The nice thing is we can always edit this out on the back end, which is beautiful, right? So gotta love technology. So a couple of the pros of hiring a VA: it absolutely frees up your time to coach more people. So if you are at the point in your business where you feel as if something's got to give in order to add more coaching hours, then that is a good indication that it's a time to hire a VA. Because if you're doing administrative work or simply tasks that take you 3 times longer than it would take somebody else to do, like writing a blog or updating your WordPress website when you have to like learn something new before you even make one change, those types of things, it's really great to find somebody to delegate to, and you can free up an hour a week, let's say, and replace it with revenue generating time, okay? You get to work in your zone of genius, and that person gets to work in their zone of genius, excuse me. So I always like to give a very brief explanation on the zone of genius. So a zone of genius is the types of things that you could do all day, every day, and never tire of it. So you wake up sort of thinking about it. It's very easy for you to do. It's one of those things that as you do it, you're actually gaining energy, not having your energy depleted. You probably love reading books about it, or love reading articles, or watching YouTube videos about these types of things. It is one of those things where you just naturally pour yourself into, and you feel like it gets good results, whatever you do. Zone of excellence is the second tier, and that is the thing that you can do well, like you're good at it, but you don't love doing it. Like it doesn't necessarily fill your cup like the zone of genius does. And believe it or not, you guys, your zone of excellence is actually the largest trap that you could easily fall into. Your zone of excellence, because you're good at it, it's easy in that category to say, well, I'll just do it myself because I can do it. I can do it fast and it's okay, right? But you don't love it. And the reason it's a trap is because this is the category that is actually taking you away from your zone of genius. Okay, so the zone of excellence is the thing you want to look at where it's like, yes, I can do it myself. I'm fairly decent at it, but I don't love it. And the reason it's an issue is because it's actually taking you out of your zone of genius. The next is your zone of competence. And then the fourth one is your zone of incompetence. Zone of competence is the thing that's like, not great at it, don't love it. I can muster through it. I don't despise it, but I sort of like probably procrastinate a lot at it. And I don't necessarily feel naturally inclined to do it. And then the zone of incompetence is the thing that you actually hate doing. Like you are not going to enjoy it. You don't feel good at it. You feel like even after you spend time on it, you've taken, way more effort than what somebody else would have. And that thing doesn't even get a good result. Okay. Let's see. I think I got a Facebook message from her. Most people know to delegate their zone of competence and zone of incompetence very quickly, just so you know. Those are the things that like you don't like doing it. So you are most likely going to dive into delegating those relatively quickly because you're like, hurry up and get this off my plate. I do not want this anymore. Let's see. She says, my Wi-Fi just hiccuped. I'll be back as soon as I can. So no problem, Anna. Let me just write back really fast. All right. So what we want to be looking at, and the reason that it's so important to dabble in all of these different roles in your business when you first start is because you kind of figure out what is my zone of genius, what is my zone of excellence, what is my zone of competence, and what is my zone of incompetence. And as quickly as possible, you really want to start getting rid of like zone of incompetence. I shared with you guys so many times before that writing is my zone of incompetence. I can talk all day long, but if you want me to write a blog post, then it is going to take me 3 times longer than somebody else. And here we go.
I am sorry, my internet, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, my internet went out randomly. It never does that. So I'm very thankful right now for phones. Yeah. Thank you for waiting.
No, you're fine. So I was just want to wrap up that thought really quickly and then we'll keep going. So your zone, my zone of incompetence is writing. So I can try to write a blog post. It's going to take me 3 hours compared to somebody else that's going to take 30 minutes. And after 3 hours, I am going to feel miserable. My energy is going to be really low, which means I don't have anything to carry me through to the things I need to be doing in my business. And even worse, that blog post I just wrote is probably terrible. I don't like it. I don't think it sounds good. It doesn't even represent like my tone of voice. And yet for some reason, I'm not very great at it. So the nice thing about dabbling in all of these different things is that you get to really figure out what do you enjoy in your business and what parts don't you enjoy and how quickly can we get rid of the things you don't enjoy. So there are some cons. So I just went over the pros, Anna, of having somebody, help you in your business. What are some of the cons that could pop up when you are looking to delegate some things or outsource?
So So one of the things that I think is probably the biggest thing in a business owner's mind when they start doing this is how do I know that this person is going to care as much about my business as I do? So that little piece of how I know they're going to take care of it the way that I would like it taken care of, and how am I going to find the time to do the training for them? I need to walk them through all the pieces that we need to do. So there is that little bigger chunk of time up front that you will need to kind of work with them, get to know them, and that can be a deterrent sometimes, especially as you're talking to them and you didn't, if you didn't take a long time to do an interview process or kind of get to know their personality, sometimes the personalities don't mesh as well as you think that they should. So sometimes someone's perfect on paper, but once you actually start working with them and learn their communication style, that can sometimes be a little bit of a hiccup to work through.
Yeah. And I did another video a few months ago, I think, that was all about like, how do you first hire an assistant? Like, what is that process like once you've hired them, as far as training them and that kind of thing?
Mm-hmm.
So if you think about it, this training video is more like before that even. This is like, how do you find the right person? How do you know if you're ready for that person? What is a VA and what are the different specialties? But once you kind of know that person and you've hired them, that other video on how to hire that person, God dang it, just lost her again, is really important. Another thing that is a challenge when it comes to a VA, you guys, just so you know, is figuring out how to communicate with one another. It is really actually challenging to figure out your communication styles from the front end. So we'll cover that in just a few minutes. And then also just learning how to delegate is a hard thing. It is actually, I will be honest, you guys, when my business started to grow beyond just myself, being a good delegator was one of the biggest growing pains I had as an individual. Learning how to trust a person and then realizing that if you are losing trust in that person, it could actually be your own fault because you aren't delegating properly. You're not giving proper instruction. You're not communicating properly with that person when you are delegating to them. So they can't do a good job for you because you haven't properly learned how to delegate. So that is definitely one of those growing pains. I could do a whole separate video on how do you delegate, actually, because I have learned the hard way on what not to do. But I feel like I've sort of cracked it finally this year, and we've got some really great systems in place for delegating. But so I know, Anna, there's some different types of VAs, there's different titles. And I think this is why people can get really overwhelmed. There's, virtual assistant, online business manager, so many things. So can you dive into explaining what some of the different titles mean and what their different roles are for those titles?
Absolutely. So virtual, and I actually remember having this conversation with you way back when we first talked, Kelsa, how virtual assistant is really a blanket term for anyone that can come in your business and help you achieve the goals that you want to achieve. So that could be anything from bookkeepers, CPAs, online business managers who basically do the operations of your business behind the scene, graphic designers, web designers, tech VAs, those that actually connect all of the pieces of your technology and CRM and help automate that for you. There's online marketers, content writers, which you were just talking about, tax specialists. I could go on. All the marketing. They could all be subcategorized or be specialists in very specific areas like social media or Pinterest or even podcast managers. And then you can have someone who kind of does a gamut of everything, which would be like a general administrative assistant. And that would be kind of like someone you would expect to come in and do the things a typical executive assistant, like the scheduling and maybe some light editing work on your documents and things like that. So it really kind of depends on the places within your business that you could utilize help on. Or how big your business is. There might be some things that you still want to have your hand in or you want to have more control over. or things of that nature. Does that kind of help explain, like, there's a huge variety of types of people or freelancers that work under that umbrella?
It's sort of like financial coaches, like we all sort of specialize, or we all have our niche or our area that we are most inclined to do. And of all the things you just listed, those are all different zones of genius for somebody, right? So you could have a VA that their zone of genius is in, behind the scenes of a course, right? Like helping with the systems and design of a course. And they are also good at some other systems. Their zone of excellence is that they can do other things too, but really their, niche is in course design sort of thing. You can have another VA that's like really good at customer service and email response and managing your calendar for you and sort of like being your right-hand person, right, as the CEO of your business. But they maybe can't do course stuff. Like they don't understand the tech side of that, but they're going to be the person that makes your life easier, makes your clients' lives easier, sort of just can read the room really well, if that makes sense. And so it's important to sort of know like what it is that you're looking for. And what would you say, I know you touched on this early at the beginning, but your area, your zone of genius, Anna, is what?
I'm actually a little bit of a combination between a tech virtual assistant. I like to delve into all the tech pieces that can help a business run. I'm sure if anyone has seen me in the group, I've mentioned Dubsado as a CRM, like at least 15 million times at this point. And also work with a lot of email marketing software. I love doing those connections and those workflows, but I also do a lot of, also help develop a lot of systems and do operations. So I call myself a tech and systems specialist.
Got it. I love it. Okay, cool. So a person's listening right now and they're thinking, I think I'm right. I think I need somebody, or I could see myself needing one soon, like by the end of the year or next year kind of thing. How do they get started? What should they be doing first? What should they be doing now, sort of before they actually dive into hiring a VA?
Well, the first thing that I believe that everyone should do if they're starting to feel overwhelmed is start to track everything that you do on a daily basis. One of the freebies that you mentioned is actually a time tracker or like a time inventory that will help track within, I think it's 15-minute increments, what you do throughout your whole workday, starting when you get up in the morning, and you could have, there's family time in there and eating breakfast time, but also the administrative pieces of what you do, how much time you use to write. And taking that time inventory is really key to kind of see what you are spending your time on. Mm-hmm. The next step of that, just feel free to interrupt me.
Well, really quickly, I just want to say that I think also one question is like, how long should they do the time inventory for? Like a week, 2 weeks, a month? What do you think?
I think 2 weeks would be a really good time for it. If you can do it a month, that's great. But it does take energy and diligence to do it, because we
takes time to do a time inventory. So, and then I want to encourage you guys, if you do this, to post in the group. So like if you've got observations, maybe you're like, hey, I'm noticing that it takes me 3 hours to write a blog post. That's what it would have been shown up on mine. Yep. Ask the group, how long is it taking you guys to do a blog post, right? Because maybe it's like you feel like it's not your zone of genius, but you're not really sure, or you need to kind of gain some benchmarks. That's one way that you can do it. You can just kind of post what it is that you come up with, or if you're torn on something, please post in Financial Coaches Unite what it is that you're finding. Okay, so they do a time inventory for ideally 2 weeks.
Yes.
And then what?
And then look through that time inventory and look to highlight all of the pieces where you were in flow or you really enjoyed what you're doing. For your group, Kelsa, I'm making an assumption that would be spending time with clients or doing Zoom calls or things of that nature where you're actually really helping people. Some people really enjoy the writing aspect, and so highlight those. So I would go through and highlight all of the things that you really enjoy doing.
Okay. And do you think, I guess I'm kind of assuming, but maybe this is incorrect, so tell me if this is wrong, that it's almost like you might want to reflect at the end of every day on what it was that you enjoyed. So if you look back at your time inventory at the end of the day and highlight at that time, like, where did I seem to like lose track of time, right? Because that is a sign of like your zone of genius. You guys, when we were talking about that earlier, one key indication that you're in your zone of genius is that you've lost track of time and you really felt like you could have spent twice the amount of time on it and never tire of it, right? So highlight it maybe at the end of every day or every couple of days. That way you're not forgetting.
That's great. That's a great thing to bring up. Doing it at the end of every day, make sure that you don't forget at the end of the week. So.
Okay, good. And so then what do they do after that?
So then after you highlight the things that you really enjoy doing, the next step is to kind of look at the things that you don't mind doing. So maybe a different color, or if you print it out, you can circle it, or, do something of that nature. So maybe things that you don't mind doing, but they're not your favorite thing to do. We like to identify what those are as well. And I'm sure that you'll kind of guess the next step of this is to look at those things that you really don't like spending your time doing at all. So you have the two top things that you either love doing or don't mind doing there. Everything else are the exact tasks you should think about delegating first.
Mm-hmm. And from there, I think one step could be that you look for patterns. So like of let's say the 15 tasks that are like, I don't really love those things. Are there 10 of them that are related to tech, or 10 of them related to marketing, or, that kind of thing? Look for patterns, because that's the type of niche VA specialist you're looking for.
Absolutely.
Right? First. Now, you might have a couple of outliers, things that don't fit in with that maybe can't go to one person. But the idea is to try and see if there's a pattern there of the types of tasks that you have in your business that you're not loving.
Exactly.
Okay.
And depending what they are, they could all be go to a general virtual assistant or something like that. But if they're tech and project management things, then you would probably think about looking for two separate people for those.
Yeah, or if it's like all the writing, or that kind of thing, or design, maybe it's like a graphic design type VA.
Absolutely.
So, okay.
Absolutely.
Cool. So anything after that, then what do they do?
So what you do after that, and you kind of bucket them together, then you'll kind of know who you need to start looking for, just to kind of like go the same direction that you were going, Kelsa. Okay. So once you kind of figure out who you're looking for, you kind of have to think and I'm going to sector into a different section here, not only what the specialty of the virtual assistant is, but where they are in the world. So do you want someone who works in your same time zone? Are you okay working with someone who is 6-hour difference? Because I know there's a lot of virtual assistants in like England, and then there's even there's a lot of virtual assistants over on the other side of the world. And you also have to consider whether because sometimes there's a language barrier if they're in another country. So those are kind of some things that you'll need to consider after you kind of figure out what type of virtual assistant, then where in the world do you want them, and what your kind of price point is when you're trying to think of who you want to hire. Yeah. I covered a lot in that sentence. Sorry.
No, but I think what you're saying is that there are some other factors to consider. And I would guess that those factors are important depending on the type of role that person's supposed to be playing for you. Absolutely. So if they're doing all tech stuff or behind the scenes, and the time of day that they're working on it versus when you're communicating with them doesn't really matter, that they could be in any time zone. If this is an assistant that is like helping you get your clients scheduled and doing reach out to your clients, making phone calls on your behalf or something like that, maybe a little time difference is okay, but having them be in like a different part of the world might be a bigger challenge. And it's not to say it isn't worth it. It just is a consideration, because each coach is going to have to decide whether that's something they're willing to take on or not.
Absolutely. It also has to do with how you prefer to communicate as well. And I think we're going to touch on this in a little bit, but how you communicate with your virtual assistant will really kind of determine some of those factors. Like if you'd like to have a conversation with them once a week, then that might not work if they're on the other side of the world. If you want to do everything through email or Slack or whatever communication tool, then that might be a better option. It really just kind of depends on your comfort level and how you would like to communicate that as the business owner.
Yeah, and how responsive maybe you need them to be. So if I'm sending them something, but it's 2 or 3 in the morning, their time, I'm probably not going to get an immediate response versus like if it's someone that's like it's during working hours kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Interesting. So, what's your preference, Anna? Like how you're communicating with your coaches that you support?
So we always have a once a week meeting. Face-to-face. There is a lot of value, at least for me. So you run your own company, but I'm also kind of running mine, even though we're working together. And I do prefer that face-to-face at least once a week to kind of work through issues that can't be described in text. Other than that, I use Slack, and I believe you do as well, Kelsa, and have recommended that to others because it is a great way to communicate quick thoughts. And I actually should have mentioned this first. We also use a project management tool because we usually work on several projects at the same time. And to have those communications tied to those projects within the context of what they're talking about helps understanding happen a lot quicker.
Now, I imagine that there's someone listening right now that's thinking, oh God, I don't know what you're talking about with Slack or project management tool. I don't have any of those in place yet, but that's okay, right? Because if they don't have it, you can help them with figuring that out on what's going to work best for them. That's kind of part of your job, right?
Absolutely.
So and they don't have to have that all figured out on like how they want to communicate with their person.
No. Just knowing whether you'd rather be someone to type a whole bunch of stuff out and send it to someone, or if you'd rather have face-to-face conversations, just knowing one or the other of those will be really valuable in your initial conversations with your potential virtual assistant.
Yeah. We do on our team, we do a kind of a hybrid approach. It sounds like you as well, where we, we do a team meeting, and the team meeting is either once a month if it's like an overview team meeting. And then we also have like a project meeting. So if it's like for the symposium or for the academy, we'll have very specific project meetings. But then throughout the week, we're posting updates based on what was discussed. We're just posting updates via Slack or Asana, you know. Which seems to work really well for us, but like you were saying, the big conversation does happen better for our team when we're doing a meeting, like we can see each other, we can hear each other, and it just happens more efficiently, I feel like.
I do too. And a lot of coaches, I believe, work that way because that's kind of how they work with their clients.
Yeah.
But I do know there's virtual assistants out there that do everything via email. So, more power to them. That's all I have to say.
So I am curious, for those of you joining us live right now, just leave us a comment and tell us, like, if you were to guess, if you don't know, it's okay. Just if you were to guess, what do you think your preferred form of communication would be with somebody? Do you think you'd want to do a meeting and have that conversation? Do you think you would want to avoid that and do everything off grid if you can, like email, text, Slack, that kind of thing? Maybe a hybrid of both. I'm just really curious as to what you guys think you would prefer. So, and it's okay if you're like, I'm guessing, but I think this is sort of my preferred style. Do you do anything, Anna, as far as like Voxer or Marco Polo or sort of like the messaging, like walkie-talkie type apps on phones? Or is it mostly, meetings and or email and Slack?
It is mostly meetings or email. I actually do have Voxer that I actually use with my own business coach, but I have not used it with clients yet. I'd rather have that face-to-face because we're all business owners here, and I kind of shy away from it because I have several different clients. And if I'm jumping with information from one client to another, then nothing gets done. And that's not good for anyone. So
totally. So, all right, we've got some good answers coming in. We've got Sherry says weekly meeting and email text. We've got, let's see, Tanya says both verbal and email text. Susan says hybrid of both. And one thing I want to point out to you guys notice Susan has her name and then like Tanya just says Facebook user. In the description of this video, just so you know, that's actually something you can make so it syncs with your name and profile and that kind of thing. So click on that if you guys want going forward. Holly says Voxer, which is interesting. Good to know, Holly. And then let's see, this is Ashley, I believe, says communication hybrid, depending on priority and urgency. Totally agree. So very interesting. So good. Okay. So let's see. They time track, they look at what they can delegate, they start seeking out a person that maybe specializes in that. They have some considerations or factors to consider, such as time zone, where in the world, like that kind of thing. What else when it comes to hiring a person? Anything else that you can think of?
And you might be going into this, but where's the best? I hear a lot of questions about where's the best place to find a virtual assistant.
Yeah. And there for that?
There are tons. I actually had written a blog post about this recently, and I probably should go and update it already. But there are tons of places to find it. You can just Google virtual assistants. There are page after page after page of Google ads for them. But I recommend talking to your friends, because there are virtual assistants not only niched into a subject area, but there are a lot that are niched into niched. I never know what to call it. That are for certain types of clients. Like I work with coaches and course creators and financial coaches specifically. But if someone is like works with realtors, they're not going to know the same things that someone who works with coaches all the time does.
All the software is different, the flow of work, the timeliness, the urgency, like everything feels very different.
It is.
You know? Yeah.
So I always say, ask your friends. Kelsa has a wonderful group of people that are willing to help each other out and give recommendations. And sometimes if a virtual assistant doesn't have time in their schedule to do it, they know other people in their same niche. So that's why I always say that should be the first place you start, is looking at your local community or your Facebook communities and find out who other people use.
And I think what we've just done already in this video is give people more clarity when they're searching. So when we first started the video, if you were thinking of hiring a VA, you might have searched like, how do I hire a VA, right? Or hire a VA, ? Right? Now it's like tech support or tech VA for financial coaches, right? Or, marketing VA for realtors, so you could even add to that in, Pacific time zone or in the US or, someplace else if you are open to that. So it's one of those things that what we've done is we've at least narrowed the options so that it's not quite so overwhelming, which is exactly what we're trying to do, right? We know that they specialize now. We know that they have specific niches as well. And we know that location is a big deal. So all of those are really important to help you at least search that way. Cool.
Absolutely.
Ashley says, how about family? I mean, I hired my husband, so he was my second assistant ever. I already had an assistant for a while. And then he was our second team member. So we have one person that says they love reading your blog.
Aw, thanks.
So that's awesome. Cherry says that.
So keep doing it.
Let's see. Tanya asks, what general hiring questions should we ask to help narrow down who we should hire? Or is it more specific to what you need? And I will say that I did cover this in the hiring video that I did. So I don't know if you have a couple of suggestions, Anna, that you want to add. I know we didn't really talk or plan for this, but if you have any suggestions.
It's funny that you say we didn't plan for this, because actually one of my freebies has that in it.
Okay, good. Okay, good.
I had made a list of questions to ask when you are talking to a potential virtual assistant, not only to kind of find out their experience, but also to find out what their personality is like, what they do in their spare time, why they're doing this business. Is it a side hustle to a regular full-time job, or are they doing it, you know, because those kind of things will tell you a lot about how much time they have, number one, and how they communicate and things of that nature.
And I would say responsiveness, their responsiveness, you know, so if they're working at a job from 8 to 5, and it's not to say that that's a bad thing, you know, right. So many of us, when like I started my financial coaching business, working full time, doing it as a side hustle, so many of the financial coaches in our group, that's exactly how they're getting started. There is nothing to be ashamed of when it comes to that. Okay. So I want to be clear on that. Just like a VA, that's absolutely great that they're getting started that way. But if you are looking for somebody who can dedicate 30 hours a week to you during business hours and they're responsive during that time, and they have a full-time job that makes it so they can't be connected during that time. Now, some people have full-time jobs where they're getting paid and can also provide some support while they're on the clock at their full-time job, you know, depending on how flexible their job is, but not everybody. And so those are just really important things to consider.
Absolutely.
Good.
So yeah, I have a list of all those questions that you guys can get. You'll get the link to how to get that, I think, a little bit later, right?
In just a few minutes. Yeah.
Okay,
so it sounds like you could have even a couple of VAs, let's say. You probably start with hiring one, delegating like a big chunk of those tasks if they're all, you know, batched together in a similar fashion, but then you might need another one. So how do you get VAs working together? Is that a big deal? Is it a big challenge? Do VAs tend to mind doing that? Do they not want to do that? Like, what's the impression there that you get?
So, and I'm just going to talk about my own experience and those of my colleagues in the field that have done it. Virtual assistants generally love to work together. We're all in the same boat. We're all, you know, trying to help each other out. So I might have just been very blessed to know those kind of people. But when we talk about communication, we're kind of going to go back to those communication tools. One of the most important things is basically a project management software that works for you and the multiple people that you work with. Because, for example, let's say you are revamping your website, and let's say you are doing some of the design, but you're having someone else create the content for it. And then you need someone to upload that content into the website. And then you need someone else to hook that content into your email blaster that sends out the blogs, the RSS feeds every week that a blog comes out. So that is all based upon one project, and it has certain steps in it. So you could actually have a project manager that helps put this together for you, but let's not get to that step yet. And that way everyone knows what's happening when, and they're able to communicate together. Let's say the content developer needs to have a little bit more information from the owner to make sure that he or she is getting the information correctly in the content, so they can send a message based upon that step that you would see and answer, and then they could complete it. So that having it all, the context there in a project management tool, is probably the most important thing, to be the central hub between you and all the people working with you.
And what are some of the project management tools that you like, just your favorites?
Yeah, so I think the three big ones I constantly hear about is Asana, Trello, and ClickUp, a little bit of a relative newcomer. I'm sure you could list a whole bunch of other ones. I mostly work with Asana and ClickUp.
Yeah. I've never heard of ClickUp, so that's interesting. We use Asana on our team and definitely use it. I know some people really like Trello. It's so funny how your brain tends to like one or the other. I think when it comes to Asana and Trello, my brain didn't work the same way as Trello for some reason, but I hear the same thing from some people about Asana, where Asana, I'm like, oh, I love Asana. You know?
I do too. It is my favorite. I'm not sure why. And I use ClickUp probably more than Asana with some of my clients, but yeah. So it really kind of depends. You can always message me and ask me what my opinion is on them if you're trying to look for one, because I've kind of dabbled in all of them.
Sure. That's awesome.
But yeah, those are my three top ones.
And I think some other things that you had mentioned when we were talking about bridging the communication gap between multiple VAs, those weekly meetings are probably key, right? So trying to get everybody on board. So maybe you do a weekly meeting with each VA, but then you also have one where if it is project related like that, if you've got 3 VAs or 3 different types of people helping you, then they're all on a meeting together.
Absolutely. And then I also like to mention Slack or some sort of instant messenger tool. It could be Voxer. So if something comes up or you need something within the next hour to make sure you hit a deadline, those are like more important comments. And it also brings a sense of community. So it's sometimes with this team that you're in, it's not just about getting the work done. It's enjoying the company of each other, going towards a common goal. It's a community. So having an area where you can kind of have fun with that, like Slack, or, send emojis or gifts to each other, or, someone's having a bad day and you can kind of help each other out. So that actually is a pretty important piece of it as well.
I love it. Okay, so let's see. You mentioned standard operating procedures before you hire more than one VA. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, and I think you alluded to this in a previous Facebook Live that you had done. Basically making a list of how you want your business to run. And when I say that, I even mean like step by step by step, how you want your emails managed, just for example. Every day at the end of the day, I want all of my emails filed. I need to know which the important ones I need to read first in the next day, and kind of a step-by-step. So standard operating is a step-by-step that anyone off the street could come and look at and be able to kind of figure out based upon what those steps are. Do you remember talking through that? Yeah,
I do. And I'll tell you, I think I was so overwhelmed by the idea of standard operating procedures, SOPs, initially when I first heard of it. And I was like, how do you even get started doing that? Like, it was such an overwhelming prospect. And I think one thing that I've learned about them is that they are living, breathing, documents. What I mean by that is they are forever changing, forever growing. The overwhelm for me, I realized, came from this idea that I thought you got it in place and then it was like supposed to be final or done or complete. And that never happens. It is one of those things. So what we now have is a pretty elaborate, robust SOP documentation written out in Asana. And we're always adding to it or defining it or getting it more clear. So what I mean by that is we'll document something that says, here's how you verify credit card charges for the 15th of the month, right? But then a month later, we'll be like, let's record a video actually showing how to do that. And we'll save the video, like a Loom video in there. But it's not like that all has to be done on the front end, right?
No.
So it's impossible to do that. The other cool thing that we use our SOPs for is, let's say the marketing one. There's a marketing and here's everyone's bios on the team. Here's everyone's headshots and everyone's bios. So the nice thing is, like, if Sherry gets an email from someone that says, hey, I want Kelsa to do a presentation, or I've talked with Kelsa about doing a presentation on this day. I need her bio and her headshot. Sherry knows exactly where to go to get it. They're already saved. It doesn't matter who on the team she needs. She doesn't need to come to us and say, hey, what kind of bio should I send? You know what I mean? So it makes the efficiency so much better. Like, everything is streamlined, everybody can be more productive. And the more people you have on your team, even the one person, even if you have one VA, the amount of questions you get during a day, at first especially, can be a distraction if you're not careful, right? So that's where it's like blocking out time those first few weeks where that person is getting hired to make sure you're fielding questions and it's not pulling you away too much from like the work you need to be doing is really important. But then after a while, you want it to be where you are setting them up to be as confident as possible in doing the job themselves, and having it documented really helps them to be able to do that.
And I just want to add on to that, if you don't mind. One of the things I actually recommend for my clients and other people to do is, you don't actually have to have these ready before your first virtual assistant. You can actually make that virtual assistant be the person to help put them together. So you can go and do a Loom video and kind of talk them through it and do the one-time training and then have them put together that SOP. So it doesn't take your time, but it's still, your ownership.
Totally. Yeah. And the other video that I did about hiring your first assistant, it talks about how do you decide what to train them on first, second, third, how to get organized, how to plan your calendar when they first start.
Yep.
So I will make sure that I link to that as well, because I think it plays really well with this this training video.
Yes,
let's talk about paying a virtual assistant. Let's talk about paying one.
I wish we didn't have to pay everyone. We can just help each other, but unfortunately, that's the way.
It's a bunch of financial coaches. We talk about money all the time, so
right.
We have to talk about money.
Exactly. So every virtual assistant actually probably usually has a way that they would prefer to be paid. Because they do own their own business. So and there's a variety, I'm sure, as you guys know, when you work with, there's a variety of that they would like to be paid. Some do it on number of hours. So depending on the job, they think that they'll work 5 or 10 hours a month. And so they'll work it and then they'll send you a time card and then you pay them according to that. Mm-hmm. Some do, and a lot of times people go over those hours. Some people work by hour, but they do a retainer basis, where they will say, okay, you're basically buying a package of 10 hours this month, and you will pay me this amount, no matter if you go a little bit under, or maybe sometimes we'll fudge it and we'll go a little bit over, but that's like the general. We know kind of how much that you're looking to do. And
in that idea, you could use 2 hours one week and 4 hours the next.
Right.
But the idea is here's your bank of hours for the month to use as needed, sort of thing.
Exactly. And then some people do pay by project. So there's some very niched virtual assistants that may, like project manager virtual assistants, that will say, I will do your entire project, which could last 3 to 6 months, depending on what your timeline is, for this price, period. Yeah. And that would be what it is. And they can set up payment plans or what have you.
Yeah.
And then sometimes people will do different level packages, like a starter. I've done this before, where I have a starter package, which would be about an hour a week, where I'd go and organize some of their stuff or make a recommendation on all the systems they use and basically do an audit for them. And they can do something like that as well. So there's really is a variety. And I'm sure you guys have had that, guys and gals, had that kind of experience when looking at your own packages. But that's a conversation that you should definitely have when you are first talking to your virtual assistant, based upon how you like to work with them as far as the payment is concerned.
Got it. And I will say, I think so many people talk about how starting a business is hard, and it is, right? Yeah. But I actually think hiring your first assistant is a much harder step to take in your business. And it's because of this sort of like, which comes first, the chicken or the egg? So you need the money to pay that person, but you need to free up your time of doing the administrative tasks so that you can spend more time coaching clients to make more money. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So it's sort of like a battle between the two a little bit when you're first starting. So my recommendation is, when you're coaching clients, start putting some money aside so that when you hire that VA, your hours could take a dip in your revenue and your client facing hours, is what I mean from a coaching standpoint, because you're going to be training them, onboarding them, all of that. And you want to have a little bit in savings to be able to take that leap. But then what happens is that person should be freeing up your time, right? They should be freeing up your time administratively, tech-wise, all the things that you're doing. And if you replace it initially, which is usually what happens, initially we're doing this so that we can replace it with meeting with more clients, then you're going to be making more money than what you pay that person, right? And then the next VA you hire, maybe that person frees up your time, but that's just the time you're taking off. You're not actually needing to replace it with more client-facing hours, let's say. You're actually just leveraging your time better to have, a bit more like work-life balance, let's say, or you're shifting your schedule a little bit. So just know that it is a little bit of a conflicting thing, right? When you're first trying to take this step in your business, which is why it's important to talk with your VA about payments and how it works and all of that. But understand that I consider it an investment in your business that can make you more money. Absolutely. Like maybe for the first month, it's an expense. It's a cost, right? Because you're not freeing up that time to meet with more clients yet. But then month 2, hopefully you're either more streamlined, more efficient, they've got you more productive, you're actually making more money as a result, which would be amazing, right? So let's talk about a day in the life of Anna. So what does a day look like for you?
Well, and it's funny because when we first talked about this, Kelsa, my day was very different than it is now.
Yeah, I know.
I made a couple updates.
Good.
So I am an early riser, which you'll probably see when you look at my time inventory. It starts at 5 o'clock in the morning because that is where I work best, and I work on all my projects best, and I do my best thinking. So sorry, I lost my place here. So I get up in the morning, and the first thing I do is I come downstairs and I do my own journaling, get my own thoughts out and things like that. And then I start looking at the tasks of the day. I always plan out my day the night before. So it's really based upon all my clients' deadlines. Anyone that has a meeting coming up the next day, I want to make sure I'm prepared for. I looked through all these notes last night, Kelsa, and things like that. So I always look at those things first, and I try to I always eat the frog first. So whatever the hardest project is at the beginning of the day, that's what I actually start to work on before 7 a.m. Come 7 a.m., that's when I do my first email check to see if there's any emergencies that have come on the line. So most of my clients are either East Coast, Central. I have one over on West Coast. So that usually is early enough that if there's any emergency, I can get to it before any of the dominoes fall to me and stuff happen. So I check for my meetings in the day, and then I check Slack and project management. I do all the emergent items. And right now we're in really interesting time because of COVID. So my kids are home. So my husband and I'm a very systems person. We have a system as to who takes the kids when, and we go over that plan every day.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can all understand.
Oh my God, that's our life right now for sure. Yeah.
I know. So from 8 to 10 in the morning, that's my time with the kids. And it's good because then I get, as we all should, get some time with the family, one-on-one time. My clients all know that's blocked out in my calendar. That's awesome. So at 10 o'clock is usually when I start all my face-to-face meetings. I do those usually from 10 to 12, sometimes 1, depending on what's going on that day. And then from 1 to 3, I do a lot of the general administrative repetitive tasks, etc. I really only check email 3 times a day, or check those like Slack or email 3 times a day, because otherwise I would never actually get through the bigger, heavy thinking tasks. I'm jumping around here real quick, but I think I'm hitting all the main points.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Yeah. And how many clients or coaches or course creators do you support right now? And does that feel doable? Does it feel overwhelming for you?
I support, well, it's kind of funny because they're not all, I have one retainer client, but then I have other clients I do small little projects for, depending on what they need. So it's kind of a little bit open-ended at this point. My goal is to actually have some more retainer clients where I can help them get their business running and do their operations and make sure all their tech works. So it's not overwhelming right now. So give me a call if you want to chat. But I love the clients that I do work with because they have such unique challenges. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Last thing before we provide them with access to those freebies that you're going to be providing. Let's say that the VA that somebody hired is not working out. We might have somebody right now listening that is happening for, like, maybe they didn't understand that there were different niches, or it's the wrong time zone, or the communication style just isn't working. What should they do?
You just, like, dealing with anybody, whether it's a virtual assistant or your husband or your kids, be willing to have a hard conversation. And when I say that, I don't mean tell them what they're doing is wrong, but be willing to say, hey, I've noticed that we keep missing deadlines. Is there a reason why? Is there something going on in your personal life? Are you not able to kind of give the time that you thought, or is there something you don't understand? Is there training that you need to have redone? So having that initial, a little bit of a hard conversation to just kind of figure out the reasons behind it is the first thing. Yeah. Second thing, don't ignore it. Yeah. Don't go radio silent. You don't want someone to do that to you. So kind of just being more upfront and being like, hey, I've noticed this is going on is definitely the best face to show in that situation. Yeah. And also, and we didn't talk about this before, but there should be a contract between you and your virtual assistant. Now, I saw some of you said it was your family, so it might work a little differently. But true. Contracts are there to kind of outline what would happen if for some reason you couldn't work with them anymore, or it wasn't working out, or those kind of things. So 30 days notice, or if they were going to leave, they can't just disappear. They actually have to give you 30-day notice and those kind of things. Does that make sense? I
would think along with that, I would think it would be important if your VA is helping you to create something like Asana or Trello or whatever, that you are the owner of it, not them, right? That it's like your account. Mm-hmm. And they are a user in your account, because the idea is like if they leave, then they take everything with them. That would be a big problem.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm just glad that we touched on that really quickly, because I think that's a really big deal. And then, having this list, and again, this is great for SOPs, is that if somebody leaves, it's a time to like update all your passwords on everything, just for security purposes, to be safe, mm-hmm. Go through and do a big update on all your passwords.
Yes, there actually is a tool. I'm forgetting the name right now, but I'll look at it real quick. Called, it's not 1Password.
That's what I was going to say too. So, okay.
But you can actually go and remove their access or change all your passwords at once, which makes that really easy.
Well, definitely let us know what that is.
Yeah, I will send it.
So if you guys need some information from Anna, I want to make sure that we provide you with how to get it. So she's got a great blog. Check that out at AnnaSimpleSolutions.com. It's ANASimpleSolutions.com. She can also, she provides lots of resources and engagement and guidance and ideas at her Facebook, which is facebook.com/AnnaSimpleSolutions. You can email her at Anna@AnnaSimpleSolutions.com. And what is the link? Can you tell everybody, and I'll link to it again in the comments, but like, what is the link for them to get the freebies? And the freebies, just so you guys remember, is time inventory template. So a document that helps you get organized with your time. Questions to ask a potential VA. I know, Tanya, you wanted that, so she's got that all typed up for you already. And then how to prepare yourself for a VA, how to get yourself organized, how to really make sure you're doing this the best way possible for you, a how-to guide. So what is that link, if you want to just read that off to us?
Yeah, I was going to see if I could actually put it in the chat, but it's my main website, AnnaSimpleSolutions.com/financial-coaches-unite.
Got it. And we will link to it in all the show notes and everything like that. But AnnaSimpleSolutions.com/financial-coaches-unite. So to get those resources, thank you so much, Anna, for providing help for everyone who I know is looking to leverage their time and expertise better as financial coaches. Is such an important step to take. Thank you for helping them to take that step.
Absolutely. This was a great meeting with you. Always love talking with you and this group.
I also want to say really quickly before we wrap up, you guys, I know so many of you are going live right now in your Facebook groups because of the 21-day challenge we're doing. And so many of you have said, it wasn't perfect, should I delete it? Or you're not doing it because you're worried about it being perfect. And I want to commend you really quickly, Anna, on the fact that like you had some tech issues, you hopped back on, you were still so clear and calm. I commend you for that. Thank you so much, you guys. This is This is entrepreneurship in a flu pandemic, right? That we are at home. You probably heard my dog barking. I heard that. I was kind of like, what's happening out there? I'm sure one of my kids is probably playing with my dog right now. This is the way business works, and that is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I want to commend you for showing up the way you did and encouraging everyone else to just take messy action in your groups to engage and to provide that level of support, just like Anna did. So thank you, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Thanks.